Let me see what the agenda is. The town administrator is going to be on there. Discussion of town budget, town meeting warrant. Discussion of assessor's budget and real estate taxes with town assessor. Update on proposed northeastern expansion and mediation requests with member of board of selectmen. I think that's Mark Cullinan. Discussion of town meeting and FinCom book. Community input. Oh my God. I'll see you tomorrow, Patty.
All right. You sure you want to do it on this computer? Because Jules and I was thinking we could get our watch our videos on our area.
Julie,
Hi, Susan. How are you?
good. You?
I'm well, thank you. Hi, Jeff.
Evening.
Evening.
Mark, I'm used to seeing your photograph. You're real tonight.
They're real. Yeah, I'm 10 years older than that photograph. That's why I use the photograph.
Hi there, everyone.
Hey, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
Masterman is staring at his computer like it's a devil.
Hey, Bob, you notice I'm not Calvin on tonight's meeting.
You're right. Excellent.
I called up my daughter and asked her how to change it back to my name.
You called tech support, huh?
Yeah.
And you got a cool background too.
Yeah, that's up in Rockport, Stone Pier.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my wife and I go up there and have picnic lunches sometime.
Nice.
That's nice. Hi, Barbara.
Hi. You sent me something which I haven't had a chance to look at. I'll have to go back and try and find it.
Oh my God, I'm late.
It was, it was the minutes.
Oh, this has been a multiple Zoom day.
It's okay.
Thank you.
Mine has just been a continuous day. Just,
The day that will never.
yeah, I think it started yesterday morning.
Oh dear.
We're going to move this meeting over here.
Long.
Oh, gosh. So let's see. Who do we have? Or who do we lack? Maybe it's a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Judy, John. We will give them a minute because I think they didn't say they weren't coming. So
Well, should I go back and look at the minutes, Julie? Julie?
Sure.
Okay, I'll do that.
Hey, guys.
Hi, John.
there.
How's everybody?
Quite well. How about yourself?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Still some daylight out there. Well, not daylight, but evening light.
Yeah.
A lot
And
of
it's warm.
fog.
And it's warm.
Just need to get rid of the fog and the mist.
Right.
50.
I think the only one we're missing is Judy.
Yep.
She did not send anything to us saying she was not going to come, but I think, you know, let's just press on here.
Okay.
Okay, so it is 7:03
Yep.
in the evening. There is a quorum of the Finance Committee present. That is just reading in order in the Zoom meeting. Jeff Lewis, Bob Vanderslice, Julie Tarmy, Barbara Beatty, Dan Sheehan, DeWitt Brown, John Fulgham, and Judy Zahora. So not only is it a quorum, but it's a full house. Finance Committee meeting is in session. We asked the selectmen, or at least a representative of the selectmen, to join us tonight, just to bring us up to date on what is happening vis-a-vis the Northeastern project, negotiations and mediations, and eminent domain. And I think Mark Cullen, chair of the selectmen, has joined us, and I think I'm just going to throw it over to you, Mark, and I'll let you go.
Okay, well,
How's
thanks.
that? Before, do we have any other business that should precede this, John, that I don't know?
No, the
of?
one thing I'll say is we were supposed to have Sheila and the assessors with us, but they canceled late this afternoon, so they will not be joining us. But again, they're going to try to be here next meeting next Tuesday. So we don't have that hanging over us.
Okay, Mark, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Thank you, all the members, for inviting me tonight. I also have with me tonight is Attorney James Masterman. I think you might have all met him once before, but Jim is probably one of the best, if not the best, eminent domain attorneys in the country. And he'll be helping me along once we get into this a little. But you first asked, Bob, what have we been doing over the last several months regarding Northeastern? Let me just give you a quick background on that. You know, we've been during our meetings, we've been discussing legal strategies and executive sessions just about every meeting. We've been preparing maps and plans and researching deeds, etc., in preparation for the request for taking. As you all know, at the request of the Finance Committee, we've completed and accepted the financial analysis from RKG showing substantial costs to the town with such a development. The other big item was Article 97 lawsuit that you know that is ongoing. It continues in Superior Court. Recently, Superior Court Judge Kopp suggested that this needs to go to trial before a jury. So we feel that that was a really great move. We were hoping that that was going to be the case. Northeastern, we withdrew its request for summary judgment, meaning to dismiss the case. The judge said he didn't see any merit in dismissing this case. He saw a lot of stuff in this case that should be presented to a jury, and that will happen hopefully in February 2022. Those are some of the highlights. I know that we're here tonight to discuss eminent domain, and I will say that you know, based on lengthy discussions with all our attorneys, the board will vote to approve and place in the warrant a new eminent domain article at our next meeting on April 1st. The new article will ask town meeting to authorize the Board of Selectmen to issue what is referred to as a letter of intention to take various parcels at East Point under what is referred to as Section 80A under the eminent domain laws. Again, I'll have Attorney Masterman in a minute walk us through that and talk about what I think is some of the important financial backstops that this section of the eminent domain law provides the town. Again, the reason that the Board of Selectmen will choose the eminent domain approach is to essentially eliminate any financial risk or exposure to the town that may have existed under the more traditional approach referred to as Section 79. If town meeting authorizes the board to proceed under Section 80A, the town will at that time have on hand $4.5 million. The board of selectmen are very confident with the appraisals that we've had completed by highly regarded commercial appraisers and experts. The appraiser estimates the taking to be approximately $1.8 million. And that is the amount we will include in our letter of intent to take, should we get the authority from town meeting. Because ADA offers the town several financial backstops, which Jim will walk us through in a minute. I will state, and this is very important, I think, that the Board of Selectmen will not commit any additional public funds other than what we have on hand through CPA. That is the $1.5 million that's in the warrant this year. That will be it. And also remember that we are looking at a 60 to a 70% reimbursement from the state for that $1.5 million. That's what we plan on committing. I won't, as a member of the board, and I know my colleagues won't commit any more than that. The Board of Selectmen has listened, rightly or wrongly, that many residents are concerned about the financial risk that the town might have been exposed to under the traditional Section 79 method. The board feels that by removing these risks from the discussion, residents will be given a sort of a binary choice to make. To one, preserve and protect the natural resources of East Point in perpetuity, as the town voted 30 years ago when it zoned it as natural resources, or to sit back and watch Northeastern construct the 55,000 square foot development, geothermal fields, and 125 car parking lot at a significant cost based on RKG's report to the taxpayers. I want one final point before I turn it over to Jim to walk us through ADA. Not only do I think ADA takes away the financial risk to the town, and if we are authorized to proceed, I think that Northeastern, who has refused to negotiate or mediate this problem over the past several years without preconditions, I think that they're going to have to sit down on the table with us. We are not, I want to restate, we are not against the mission of Northeastern, the work that they're doing. We are against the development and the location of that development. We know firsthand that Northeastern has looked at other sites on that property where they could meet their needs. And we think we could work with them to make it happen. Northeastern obviously doesn't feel that it needs to negotiate with us. It refuses to negotiate with us. And until we get some sort of authority and some sort of leverage, I don't think that's going to happen. So with that, I'm going to turn this over, if I could, Bob, to Jim to walk us through the ADA process, and then we could open it up to questions.
Mr. Chairman, should I start in? We okay?
I should take myself off of mute.
All right.
Yes, please.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mark. And among those qualifications, he omitted the most important one, and that is that I'm also a former Town of Needham Finance Committee member. So I know the work that you do. And I admire the work that you do because I couldn't last more than about 3 years. It was really very hard. Mark was right in terms of this approach to ADA, and I think I'll take just a half a step back and talk about the two processes for a moment so the committee understands why we are pivoting to the Chapter 80 capital A process as opposed to the more traditional Chapter 79 process. And both are of equal legality. There is no issue whatsoever in a town's selecting one alternative over the other. In the traditional, if you will, Chapter 79 process, assume you are building a road. There can be no equivocation, no uncertainty of title when you are going to build a road. So the great majority of takings in the Commonwealth are done by the board adopting an order of taking. That order of taking goes to record within 30 days, goes to the Registry of Deeds. Once it is recorded, title vests in the town or the Commonwealth or whatever we're talking, whatever taking authority we're talking about. It is that certainty of title that the direct or the quick take procedure that's laid under Chapter 79 allows you. And by the certainty of title, when title vests in the town by recording the order of taking, the certainty of paying land damages of just compensation attaches. There is no question that once title vests in the town by a taking, there must be just compensation paid. There's no going back on that. Eminent domain lawyers refer to it as, that which was land or real property is now money. That which was owned by a private party is now owned by a public entity, and in its place comes just compensation. You have to make the owner whole. There is an alternative procedure, and one, quite frankly, that's used by the federal government uses this procedure by initiating judicial proceedings. But for one thing, I'll get it. But there are other states, great majority of states, don't do it the way Massachusetts does. Most of the states do it, or maybe not most, but many, many states, I can't give you the percentage, initiate eminent domain proceedings or condemnation proceedings by filing a lawsuit. And it's called a judicial proceeding. So if you think in terms of Chapter 79 as completely administrative, in other words, the board adopts the order of taking, goes to record, owns the property and the obligation to pay, ADA is a judicial proceeding. And by that, I mean there has to be a lawsuit. So how does ADA work? Mark misspoke when he said it was called a letter of intent to take. The Chapter 79 process in order of taking. Under Chapter 80A, the board simply does this. It adopts an order of intention to take. Not an order of taking, but an order of intention to take. It also must, as in a order of taking situation, state how much money is going to be paid. The difference is that the money is not paid over to Northeastern under Chapter 88. I mean, I should say the owner. It's not paid over. Under the 79, it is. But within a, let me get the dates, let me get the time here. Once the order of intention to take is adopted by the board, within 10 days, we have to start a lawsuit. There's the difference. The taking authority starts the lawsuit. In a Chapter 79 proceeding, if the landowner was aggrieved by the amount of money, they would have to start the lawsuit. In the ADA process, we start the lawsuit. And we start the lawsuit and we say to the court, we believe that we have not only done the taking properly, but we believe we set aside enough money here to adequately and justly compensate the landowner. The landowner may say, no, I don't think so. What does the court do in that situation? The court appoints 3 commissioners, 3 magistrates, 3 arbitrators, 3 people within the county, Essex County, in the judge's discretion that may have some understanding of real estate, or they could be pals of the judge. There isn't a lot of limitations on what the judge does as to how that judge may qualify these commissioners. Those commissioners will hold the trial. It'll happen pretty quickly because you're not dealing with the jury system yet. You get 3 individuals appointed by the judge to hear the evidence. Those commissioners then will make a decision. It may agree with the town. It may agree in this situation with Northeastern. Whatever the commissioners decide is their determination. They're what is referred to in the statute as their report. And they will report to the judge. This is what we think the property is worth. At that point, the town has 2 options. Assume that the commissioners have decided that the amount of money that the town has set aside or believes the property's value was too low. And they have made a determination, the commissioners have made a determination that it's 2x, 3x, whatever that number might be. The town has an opportunity there to abandon the taking proceedings altogether. And it reverts, and because title has not vested, the taking proceeding is over, and the eminent domain proceeding is over. The town does not own anything. It does not owe just compensation. But if it abandons the proceeding, it must pay the costs incurred by the landowner to get to that point. expenses, and things to that effect. They may also have to, we may also have to pay if we abandon some compensation for not allowing Northeastern to have the use of their property for the period of time. But even that is somewhat suspect because we're not going to interfere with Northeastern. So I don't want to leave it in the situation that the abandonment is not without cost, without financial implication to the town. There will be, but it is not in paying for the land, which is the very big number. We can go through a number of those expenses if you'd like us to do that. I'm not going to do that. So let's take the situation where the commissioners make a determination that is consistent with the town. They hit our number, right? I'm as good as Mark says I am. And they come right with that number. What is Northeastern's option? Northeastern say, okay, we're done. Pay us that money and go away, or more likely, they will take an appeal to the Superior Court, go back to that judge and say, we want a jury trial. Let's assume that happens. Let's assume that happens. The commissioners have a very favorable award to the town. Northeastern decides that there were mistakes made. They didn't really understand. We want a jury trial. Assume that a jury trial is adverse to the town's interests. Let's assume the jury disagrees with the commissioners and does 2x or 3x what the commissioner's award is. The town has an opportunity at that time to abandon the taking proceedings. Again, subject to paying the costs, which would be higher, of course, by that point, be a second trial. We've used the property, the property's not been expanded. There may be a variety of things Northeastern might claim, who knows what they'll say. But we still have that opportunity to abandon the proceeding altogether. So the difference between, okay, when does the ADA process come to an end? When both parties are satisfied with the number, or that there's a final judgment entered at some point. And once final judgment enters, whether it's after the commissioner's hearing, whether it's after a jury verdict, whether it's after an appeal to the appeals court or the SJC, once the final judgment enters, there's no going back. And the town can no longer abandon at that point. So I've seen this process used a couple of times. It is used in the type of project where, unlike a road or a school or a police or fire station, public safety, where there is a project that must be built. Here is a situation where the town is trying to preserve an asset, and it doesn't have to put the land to a particular purpose, and it might change a priority if the numbers come in differently. ADA is designed to allow a taking authority the flexibility to abandon if it is told by the commissioners and then later again by the jury that your estimate of the land damages is not enough. Then I submit.
Taking questions now, Mr. Masterman?
Yes, be happy to.
Okay, so you brought us through the ADA case scenario, and say we're at the point where the court says the amount of money that we would have to pay and the town decides not to go forward with it. And the town would then be responsible for the legal fees of Northeastern. And assuming it's going to get appealed, so it should be a substantial amount of legal fees. So how much would that be? I mean, we're on the FinCom, so we think about dollars, and how much is it going to cost at that point?
Well, there's a question as to whether the town would be liable for the attorney's fees of Northeastern. Is that what you're asking me?
Yes, that's what you just said, right?
No, I didn't say the attorney's fees are Northeastern. Attorney's fees are a different issue altogether, because in attorney's fees are awarded by statute. So it's sort of the American rule that each litigant bears its own legal fees and expenses. Here, the statute's pretty clear that it says that expenses, if abandoned, are to be paid by the town. There is a question as to whether that includes attorney's fees. I'll just say that. I don't think it does, but the court could award attorney's fees, and I think you're right to be concerned about it. But it's not established by statute that attorney's fees. You will be responsible for your own attorney's fees, no question about that.
Who would pay for the expenses of the commissioners? Any studies or reports or investigation that they need to do? Who pays for that?
That'll be split.
Okay.
How long do you think this whole process could take?
Well, when I was asked about that recently, I can only give you this example, that I'm involved in another matter on behalf of another town, and we went to get a trial date from the Norfolk County Court, and we were assigned May of 22. So, and that's a jury trial. So that's a case already in progress from the 2019 taking. The matter's been in litigation for more than a year, and the court just assigned us May of 22. In the Chapter 80A process, I would say that if we file, if the board were to adopt an order, if the town meeting authorizes, and the board adopts the order of intention to take, let's say, let's use examples so we can talk about them. Let's say in June of this year. The lawsuit is started immediately. The judge will appoint the commissioners within 60 days thereafter. So now we're talking in September. Then it's up to the commissioners to set up the trial. We could have a commissioners hearing before the end of the year. The jury trial is, as I just indicated, I couldn't venture a guess as to when a jury trial in Essex County would be held.
And in our situation, when in that timeline would Northeastern prohibited from, hang on, my assistant in the background there, would they be prohibited from further development?
I think it's fair to say that if we commenced the ADA process, that a judge would, I would think a judge would not allow Northeastern to proceed.
But it is indeed a possibility then that they'll be allowed to move along with their process with redevelopment during this entire time.
It's certainly a possibility. I think it's highly unlikely.
An opinion question. Which method, 79 or ADA, gets them to the negotiating table fastest? Mark has mentioned that they've been very reticent about sitting down and negotiating. I get the distinct opinion that ADA says, well, I'm not sure what my motive is for getting to the bargaining table. You know, I'm sending you a notice that says I'm going to do something, whereas 79 says, here you go, I've done it.
Let me just take a different approach on what these two different alternatives allows the town to do. If the town meeting were to authorize the board to take by eminent domain and leave it to the board to make a decision one way or the other, the board doesn't have to act immediately. It is now authorized to adopt either an order of taking or an order of intention to take. What I can tell you is that simply having the board authorized to take rarely motivates a landowner. It just doesn't. The government grinds slowly. So landowners say, okay, if you're going to take it, take it. If you're not, don't. What I do know is that if the board were to proceed under Chapter 79 and the board were to adopt an order of taking, you must record that within 30 days and you own it. There will be no question that you're going to pay land damages. You can't go back on that one. So if you believe that the possibility of long drawn out litigation with the sword of Damocles of eminent domain hanging over Northeastern's head may motivate them to come to the table more than simply having a board armed with that opportunity, I would tend to think that the town is in a very good position to say we're going to litigate the issue of value before we make a decision whether to proceed.
Do you think if they can continue with their process of development throughout all of this, then really it doesn't matter. But in the end, by the time it could be done, they could have that building built.
Yeah, I think that's right, but I think it's highly unlikely that a court will allow them to proceed.
Still a risk.
May I say that in the thing that Bob Vanderslice circulated this afternoon, it says the town must reimburse the owner of all of its costs and for the loss of the use of the property.
Yeah, that's right. All of its costs. Attorney's fees are in a different category. But look, I understand the concern with them. I really do. It is certainly possible that a judge might say we have to pay for everyone's attorney's fees. The work that we did to try to understand in this context whether attorney's fees are thought of as a cost is very, very limited. What I can tell you is that in every other litigation, the terms costs and attorney's fees are two different things. And when there is recovery of attorney's fees from the victim, if the loser has to pay the winner's attorney's fees, it is specifically set out in a statute. It's not within the legal definition of what costs are. Costs are expert fees. Costs are deposition fees. They're court exhibits, things to that effect. I think that because this statute uses the term expenses, there's some room there. And there's no case law that says it one way or the other. It just doesn't say it. So is there exposure? Yes. But if I could come to you with some certainty, I would. All I'm telling you is that it's not a certainty that you would have to pay the attorney's fees.
Just to sorry to keep hammering on this point, Mr. Masterman, but I'm looking at the law right now on the web and it says recover indemnity in full by order of the court. The proceeding shall be entitled to recover indemnity in full. Are we saying that that does not include attorney's fees?
What you're reading from ADA is what you're reading from ADA.
Yeah,
Indemnity is a term that is used throughout eminent domain jurisprudence. You are intended to indemnify the landowner for its full pecuniary loss. It has always been defined as just compensation for the real estate. So the indemnity concept in eminent domain, eminent domain is against the thing. It's against the real estate. And when you indemnify for the loss occasioned by the landowner from the taking, the courts have interpreted indemnity to mean just compensation for the real estate in the Commonwealth.
Not taking exception to the word indemnity, but it says indemnity in full. Recover indemnity in full.
And it goes on to talk about expenses, which is where I really think is our exposure.
Okay.
Expenses could be any number of things. And it could include attorney's fees. I'm recognizing that. What I'm telling you is that it doesn't specifically say attorney's fees, where every other statute where attorney's fees are awarded says attorney's fees.
Right. So the, I mean, the case that you mentioned earlier that you're part of, I know you can't talk about it, but the city of Newton appropriated $725,000 to cover their end of the attorney's fees for a similar case. So that would be something that's reasonable to assume might be our case too.
Let me jump in on that, Dana. I
Sure.
think what you're referring to in Newton is completely different. I believe they're following the provisions under 79, and the amount and the size of the project is much larger than what we're talking about here in Nahant. And also the legal fees in that regard, again, or based on going through the whole, appeals process of 79. That's not what we're doing here.
Right.
So, I mean, I think what they're budgeting for, it appears to me what they're budgeting for in Newton is for a whole appeals process under 79. That's not what we're talking about here today.
Okay, so it's a little different, I understand. But we think that, we're just trying to get an idea. As a finance committee, the attorney's fees.
As you know, we have the $4.5 million, 1.5 million is from the community preservation, and 3 million is from a private donation. Of that 4,500,000, we have set aside $500,000 for legal fees.
Okay.
And we feel that will cover it.
And just to clarify, so if the legal fees were to be paid out of that $4.5 million, would it come from the town's 1.5 or from the 3 million donated, or proportionally from each?
I'd have to look at that, John. I think the CPA is a borrowing article. I'm not sure what bond council would say relative to that. So I'll have to check into that. But if not, it would come from the other source.
Okay, thank you.
Let's maybe put Attorney Masterman on the spot. Does $500,000 appear reasonable in this situation?
It will certainly get us through the commissioner's hearing. And I think it could take us all the way through a jury trial, but it's very hard to know.
Oh, understood.
These cases are not discovery heavy. Experts are not deposed in eminent domain cases under the Massachusetts rules. But commissioners, however, are allowed to set their own rules. They may want that. They may allow that. So I think that is a very reasonable budget to set. And I'll try to earn every nickel of it if you can.
You're doing well so far.
Article 22, if I'm reading it right, doesn't specify 79 or 80. That's not what we're asking, right, on town meeting day.
Jeff, good point. I mentioned earlier when I began speaking that the board on our next meeting, April 1st, will approve a new article for this that will get to the finance committee ASAP.
Oh, okay, all right.
And Mark, the intent of the new article would specify at least two things that are different. One, that it's going to proceed under ADA, and two, that there's a cap to the town's investment.
Yes.
Can you explain what happens to the Article 97 lawsuit in the context of an eminent domain proceeding?
If that's directed to me,
Or whoever can answer the question, because I don't know the answer.
Well, let me just say, in layman's terms, if we went through with eminent domain, we would abandon the Article 97. We wouldn't need it. I mean, we have taken control of the property, and we will preserve it into perpetuity. I don't personally see a need to pursue Article 97 if we do take it. But if we don't, then Article 97 will be pursued. Jim, have I missed something there?
No, and the question, of course, is as to when. If the Article 97 suit is already set down for jury trial, then you would want to move very quickly to the commissioner's hearing. Because, as we said, the ADA gives you a flexible, you don't have to take it. You don't have to take it. So certainly if the board were to decide to take by Chapter 79, then that would move the Article 97 lawsuit. Under ADA, does it move? You're coming at them with both approaches.
Do I understand correctly that we, i.e. the town, if this is approved at town meeting, we decide upon the estimate? That's something that's our decision that we put forth.
The estimate of just compensation, is that what you're asking
Right,
now?
yes.
Yes, the statute requires the town to base its determination or its estimate of compensation on an appraisal.
And so we hire an appraiser, but I mean, we do that as part of our order of intention.
Yes.
We've already done it, Betty, Barbara.
Excuse me?
We've already had an appraisal done.
Right, I thought I heard you say that, but that's part of what we do right up front. So
In that
that's always
regard,
specified.
yes, in that regard, there's no difference in the two procedures.
Right.
Picking authorities always, they are required to appraise the property to be acquired by eminent domain.
And if there's a challenge in respect to the appraisal in terms of, what is the highest and best use, does that need to get resolved before the commissioners take over, or where would that situation fall in
On the issue of highest and best use alone, is that what you're asking, sir?
Yeah.
They
challenge that.
Highest and best use is a litigated issue. I mean, the appraisal is based upon an appraiser's opinion as to the highest and best use of the land. It would be the predicate to the opinion of value, and it would be litigated.
Outside of ADA?
No, within the commissioner's hearing and at a jury trial. And at a jury trial. I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. So in the eminent domain world, and I keep saying that, but we're dealing here with an expert opinion. And the opinion is on building blocks. And the opinion of value is based upon what this particular appraiser believes is the highest and best use of the land. If that highest and best use foundation is shaken, then the entire opinion of value crumbles. And eminent domain trial lawyers look for any way to shake the value, and the predicate opinion of highest and best use is one area. There are, however, many cases where highest and best use is agreed upon. And so the issue would be just simply valuation and determinations. And that's where you get big swings of value, of course, in highest and best use litigation. One might say that you can build 500 apartment units on a piece of property, and someone else says, no, you can't. You can only build 100. At least there's the uses agreed upon. Some people can say that the highest and best use of land is industrial, and others can say it's multifamily housing. So those predicate opinions of use are the foundations of valuation, and they're litigated as part of any valuation proceeding.
This is kind of a crazy question. Back to 79. If we did go 79, then you say that it happens at that point in time, right? Nahant becomes the owner of the land.
Right.
And then if Northeastern came to the table after that happened and said, okay, you proved your point, you took it from us, we'll give you everything you want. We'll make all the concessions that you want. will you let us go forward? Do you back out of it?
It would be, it is, well, two things. One, you can't reverse time and say the taking did not happen. You
No.
have to go back to the court and have the taking reversed in some way. That's going to require an agreement between the two parties, and I've never seen it done. Let's put it that way. I've never seen it.
Like I said, crazy question.
Well, no, it's not a crazy question, but people can agree upon any number of things, and the court will respond to it. But it just, you can't unravel vesting of title.
But we could theoretically grant some sort of an exemption to them that would allow them to proceed, even though we still retain the conservation easement.
Sure. If the town were the owner of the property, whether in fee or as proposed here, a conservation easement.
It's always better to negotiate from a position of strength. And
the town could do any number of things, but I don't want to get too. I want to sort of stay within my lane here a little bit. I'm not sure if it's a conservation easement, how much flexibility a town actually has to grant exceptions. So let me stay out of that one.
Okay, so while we're asking crazy questions, I'm going to ask a crazy question, because when this all was started, I was very surprised to learn about the Dover Amendment. In the eminent domain process, whether it's 80A or 79, does a not-for-profit have any special rights or privileges a la the Dover Amendment? Although it's probably not through the Dover Amendment, it would be something else.
Well, let's take them in order there. I can speak to the Dover Amendment and what that is, but if what you're asking is, does the fact that it's a university and it owns a piece of real estate, does it get any particular enhancement as a result of it being university owned? Is that the question?
That's the question. Yeah. Do they have any special treatment through the process?
No.
I have a question too. Mark, could I ask you a question about the Article 22 in the current warrant?
Sure, go ahead.
My quote from the article itself, I'm looking at it now. It says, to see if the town will vote to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire by purchase, gift, and or eminent domain, all or a portion of the parcel of land located at 430 Nahant Road, more or less. Is that what the town's gonna authorize, that the town could take all of the land?
We will have a plan attached to the new article that will indicate exactly the areas that we're taking and how we're taking.
Is it gonna be all or a portion?
It will not be all.
Thanks. Mark, follow up to that, I guess, and nobody else has a question there, but is the article going to specify the kind of, is it going to be a conservation easement, or is it going to be take the whole property in whole? Or?
Not quite sure if we'll specify it it will either specify it in the article itself or the motion at town hall floor, or in the plans themselves will be indicated.
Okay, so we'll look for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Are questions from those not on the board now in order?
You're muted, Bob.
Bob, you're muted.
Bob, you're on mute. Did you want to answer that, Bob?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Just assuming that the town wished to maintain maximum flexibility and that the article specified to grant to the board the option of choosing 79 or 80A downstream of town meeting. I'm wondering, and this is a question for Mr. Masterman, assuming the town wanted to use the 79, Chapter 79 procedure to bring the maximum pressure to bear on Northeastern to negotiate. I know that the filing the order of taking is conclusive and irreversible. However, the adopting the notice of taking or the action of taking needs to be recorded. And if it's not recorded, then that provides some time in which negotiations could go forward. And I'm wondering whether it is possible or whether it's lawful to withdraw to have the board then vote to withdraw such an action of taking and thereby keep matters in suspense for purposes of ongoing negotiations.
Let me answer it this way if I can. If the board were authorized to decide in its own discretion whether to proceed by way of 79 or 80A, and the board then decided to proceed under 79, and it adopted an order of taking, it must record that order within 30 days, or that order is void. It's of no further force and effect. It's debatable, and I don't want to speak as a municipal lawyer, as to whether the board can continue to adopt successive orders of taking, one after another, even though they all go void at the end of 30 days. I've never seen that happen. Never seen that happen.
That's what my question implies, and I gather it's not widely used then, eh?
I just want to jump in here. I want to make sure that everyone understands that what we're suggesting here is the taking of a conservation easement. We are not affecting Northeastern's current operation at all. We expect them to continue doing what they're doing uninterrupted. We are not affecting their operations in any way.
I'm going to jump in right now. Ken Carangelo was made a decision tree flow chart that I'm going to try to share with the meeting, and especially you, Attorney Masterman, if you could just glance at this and tell us whether he's captured it or not. I think he has. So I have to figure out Zoom. I have to share. Okay, there you go. I think Zoom is something like a seance of the jet set here, where can you see my screen? Can you hear me? Can you hear Uncle Andy?
We can indeed see your screen and we can hear you. Thank you.
All right, so you can see my screen and you can hear me.
Both of those things are true.
Okay. More importantly, can Attorney Masterman see the screen?
I see it. I see it.
Okay.
Yes, I do. So would you like me to sort of walk my way through and answer those questions in red?
Yeah, I think we've actually answered most of them, but go ahead.
So to the left of the commissioners is this decision by the board. The town meeting authorizes, the board adopts an order of taking, we file suit, and the commissioners are appointed. This takes us from the commissioner's hearing or trial. The commissioner's decision agrees with the town or agrees with Northeastern. Of course, it could come in someplace in between, right? Northeastern says, okay, we're done because it has agreed with the town. What happens? the litigation is over, it goes to final judgment.
So, I'll stop you for a second. So it's not a question of agree with the town or agree with Northeastern. It's really, they make their own independent determination.
Correct.
And it's not necessarily agreeing with anybody. It's their determination.
Right, it's not so-called baseball arbitration.
Yeah.
They are free to say the town is right, or Northeastern's right, or you're neither right. It's probably someplace in the middle. As a jury is, by the way. A jury is also not required to follow any appraisal one way or the other. It can make a decision on its own.
Okay. So coming out of, go ahead.
But take the top series of what ifs. What happens if Northeastern says we're done? The commissioners have reported to the court a number. The town says, well, let's assume it came in at someplace in between. The town could say we're prepared to pay it, and communicates that to Northeastern. And then if Northeastern says fine, we're done, then the litigation goes to final judgment. Final judgment means that the taking has occurred, and we record, I don't remember the name of the pleading that is recorded in the registry of deeds. Title will vest upon final judgment rendered in the 88 proceeding. Okay. Northeastern appeals. It doesn't like the number. It goes to a jury trial. The jury decides higher than the commissioners or agrees with the commissioners. Right. The town can abandon. That's right. What are the town's obligations? The expenses and costs that we discussed before. It agrees with the commissioners. Agrees with the commissioners. So again, the commissioners, this is agrees with the town. Okay, so the jury agrees with the same number of the commissioners, and that's favorable to the town. It goes to final judgment at that point. Northeastern has, at that point, what every litigant does at the end of a jury trial, the right to take an appeal to the appeals court. Those are errors of law. It's not any more than that. It's a regular appeal to that or the Supreme Judicial Court. If JC says that the commissioners acted lawfully and the jury and the judge instructed the jury correctly, it will go to final judgment at that point.
So the appeal cannot be an appeal on value, only on a matter of legal proceeding.
Yeah, well, once again, it's always about they shouldn't have let in some piece of evidence. And so it does go to value. There's no liability in these cases, right? There's no determination as to whether one party has done right or wrong. These are sometimes, and I think rightly referred to as petitions for assessment of damages. In the ADA, it's a little bit different, but that's what we're talking about. What are the damages? On the lower tree, the commissioners agree with Northeastern. The town can abandon that process. What obligations does the town have? The town must pay if it abandons all expenses of Northeastern.
That's what we discussed before. Okay, so this is sort of right.
No, it's absolutely right. The process works exactly as laid out.
I think it's really very helpful, actually. I think it'd be helpful for the citizens to see, because I think it breaks down everything you've said and much clearer now.
I tried.
Right. So we can clean this up then.
Yeah, I'll send it to Julie. Can I just ask, may I just ask one question to follow up here? In the instance where the commissioners agree with say it's a higher amount than the town, but that's the agree with Northeastern scenario, the town can abandon the process. Is the town obligated to abandon the process, or the town can, this is where the stopgap comes in. Is there an opportunity for the town to come in and say, okay, we'll pay the higher amount? And if that's the case, when does that question come to voters?
At any time, and this speaks to settlement as well, at any time the parties can agree upon the compensation number. If the commissioners came in with whatever Northeastern says and the town was prepared to pay it, I'm sure Northeastern would be very happy and the process is over. It goes to final judgment.
Okay, so, but in the authorization then, and again, if the point of the ADA is to stem the financial risks, which is fine. At where did the vote, I guess, is it written to the original warrant that it's only up to a certain amount, or where does the, where's the stopgap to have the town ask voters, do we pay the higher amount or not?
Hey, Ken, I think, and I'll ask Mark and Attorney Masterman, I think what I heard is that this warrant article will specify a maximum. Is that correct, Mark?
A maximum of public funds, yes.
Okay. That would imply that if there's a gap, it would be made up with private funds, or that the town would abandon.
You're free to assume whatever you wish, Ken. All I'm stating is it will not exceed the public funds available.
Okay.
What happens, oops, it's not me. I don't understand. Are we talking here about it already having gone to the SJC?
No.
So what happens if it ends up at the SJC?
That would be after a jury trial.
Right. And what happens then?
Well, the SJC could say everything was done perfectly, or it could say that there were mistakes, and it could revert it, it could send it back to the Superior Court, as the SJC has in every appeal, for further proceedings consistent with their decision.
So if the SJC sends it back, it goes back to the next level down, and
all right, you got me for a moment. Let me just think with it. So could there be an appeal from the commissioner's hearing to the SJC? I don't think the answer to that is no.
that's what yeah.
So the only time there would be an appeal, and it could be by the town too, to the appeals court first, and then ultimately the SJC, if they take the case, would be after a jury verdict that one of the other parties says that the judge made a mistake in letting in certain evidence. That tends to be what the SJC decisions are with respect to eminent domain cases. That some evidence was let in for the jury's consideration that should not have been. And there are others. I shouldn't summarize them all. There's many others, but those tend to be, they're all valuation issues.
But then what happens?
And then if the SJC says there was an error, we'll send it back down for a new trial.
That's what I wanted. Thank you.
That could happen under either 79 or 88, right, Jim?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's back to my question of time. How long, when we talk about all the various iterations and possibilities, are we talking 5-10 years before it gets settled?
Pre-pandemic, eminent domain cases are fast-track cases. They're supposed to be initiated and complete within 18 months. Usually it's 2 years, sometimes more. There's a step here, though, with the commissioners that will probably take this a little longer, but you're going to get a decision pretty fast, and you would never get that under the other process.
Have you seen these cases commonly go to the SJC and come back for a new trial? This is to your question, Judy, about timing.
There are many reported SJC decisions in the eminent domain jurisprudence. Many. Not nearly as many as other areas of the law, but there are. But it is the rare case. But let me say this. I've been in front of the SJC twice.
Oh.
That may be more of a reflection of the nature of my practice than it is on eminent domain generally. There was a decision most recently SJC handed down on an eminent domain case in the last 60 days that had to do with whether a town whether a town should pay a pro tanto payment, the initial payment, if the landowner is challenging the actual right to take. That's the kind of thing the SJC deals with.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Three times those issues.
Hey, Jim,
Yeah,
how many years have you been practicing?
too many, Jeffrey, but not nearly as many as you.
That's probably true, but you have been to the Supreme Judicial Court on eminent domain cases twice in your career, which extends how many years? More than 30?
Yes.
Right.
So I understand what you're saying, that the likelihood isn't high. I appreciate, listen, I very much appreciate what you walked through today. Again, I thought that flow chart was terrific. But I'm worried about a couple of things. I'm worried about that we'll go through all of this, it'll be hung up for years, the work will continue on in that space while we wait, and at some point the whole thing becomes moot, it's just an expense. I worry about that. And I worry that we talk about asking that at this point, doing this would bring them to negotiation, but if just general conversation doesn't bring them to negotiation, what makes us think this is gonna do it?
Well, I think if Northeastern hears the voice of town meeting, they'll have a different position.
They've heard town meeting, they certainly have heard what's been going on since that last presentation, right? It's not like we've been quiet about it as a town. So it hasn't in any way influenced them.
Well, they'll have an opportunity, Judy, to sit down and mediate if we get to that point, and I hope they do. Because I do think there is a mutually acceptable position here. There is a middle ground that I believe most town people could live and Northeastern could live with. And I hope we can get to that point.
So, Jim, can we pursue this conversation about whether this project is going to go forward or not during this process? Hello?
What do you want me to say, Jeffrey? We would ask the court to stay all Northeastern's actions pending outcome of the ADA proceeding.
Right. So you would normally ask to stay their process. Presumably, they aren't necessarily going to voluntarily do that. But what are the repercussions to them if they go out and spend, $25 million moving forward with a project, and then we still take it? What has to happen to that $25 million improvement? Am I asking a ridiculous question?
I think it's an excellent question.
I think it speaks to my original point, absolutely. Are they so far along that we can't do anything about it at that point because we can't afford to compensate them?
So Jim, do we have to compensate them for the $25 million they've spent, number one? And number two, am I wrong in thinking that that's totally at their risk and therefore they'd be rolling the dice on $25 million, knowing that we are potentially going to take that property?
Or are they somehow held liable for having done $25 million of damage to something that ultimately becomes the town's?
Well, that's why that's why they would likely enjoin the case, because this is intended to preserve conservation land, and to allow them to move forward on conservation land is to defeat the very purpose for which we are trying to take the property.
Jeff, let me jump in here, and I know that town council will probably weigh in on this certainly, but with pending lawsuits, I'm not sure if permits would be issued.
So Mark or James, this is Dana Sheehan again. Do we have any idea how much Northeastern has spent so far for engineering, architect's fees, and improvements on the land so far? Because as I read it in ADA, I mean, if there's a question about attorney's fees, okay, put that aside. However, they've already, I could see they've easily spent $1 million or more so far, just getting ready to this point. And so we'd be responsible for that if we bailed out.
I don't see that at all. It's the expenses incurred in connection with this proceeding, not all expenses that Northeastern has incurred for trying to expand the facility.
Right, nevertheless, though, the court could say that, you know, Northeastern has spent X amount of dollars over the last 2 years getting ready to do this development. And then if we abandon, you know, we'd be responsible for it.
Respectfully, I disagree. I don't see that at all. I don't see that in its exposure at all.
Zero?
There's no guarantees in life at all. I mean, I can't, you know,
Okay.
I mean, what are you saying to me? You can come up with any number of different scenarios that create this, frankly, an artificial exposure to the town. I do not believe that is one of them. I told you that I didn't think that we would be exposed to attorney's fees for Northeastern because I have a series of cases that are reported as to how attorney's fees and statutes are interpreted in the Commonwealth. But I do not have a categorical one on under ADA, and I recognize that. So there is some exposure there. Northeastern's expenditures in getting ready to build the facility is not a expense that would be considered, in my opinion, for reimbursement under ADA.
No matter which way it went, whether the town went forward with it or if they abandoned the proceedings?
Sorry, say it again.
So you could say that the town, if the town went forward with the ADA procedure or abandoned it, the town wouldn't be responsible for that in either case?
The town is, this is a taking proceeding. It's the fair market value of the real estate. If we abandon, then we must make the owner whole for the expenses that were incurred in connection with the ADA proceeding. If we take, we own and owe them compensation for the value of the real estate. The fact that they spent money and make plans might very well come in to establish a highest and best use, which I don't think they can prove that, but nevertheless, then we're not going to reimburse them for the expenses they've incurred in designing the science center, the new science center.
All right. Well, thanks for that. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and respectfully, I'm happy to try to get you as much information I have. I appreciate the question. I just don't see that. I don't see that.
More questions, comments?
Thank you very much. This has been really very helpful.
Mark, I think it might be helpful if you could comment a little bit on just the recent attempts at mediation and what's happened there. And if Jim Masterman has anything to on that topic, him as well.
Well, we first reached out to Northeastern at the request of Superior Court Judge Kopp, who suggested we go into mediation and negotiate. We sent them a letter that we made public to the town. Northeastern responded, and that letter was public. We responded, and we responded again to Northeastern and asking them to set a mediation date without preconditions, and they have not returned any calls or letters. But we're still, I'll answer the phone whenever they call.
Great.
Bob,
Well,
if you-
we'll try to get that information, following our meeting next week. All of that information to the finance committee is probably by Friday if possible.
Thank you.
So you, the selectmen, are meeting next
Thursday,
Thursday, and that's when the new article will be drafted
yes,
or approved, rather.
yes.
Okay.
And we'll have a set of plans too available.
All right, perfect.
Bob, if I may, would you mind, I think I recasted, I think, in terms of the amount, in terms of, rather than agreeing or disagreeing with the town, would it, just to save a cycle of meetings and to make sure that whatever the public's looking at is accurate, would you mind just flashing up the revision that I just sent for Mr. Masterman?
I hope you named the file something else.
It's,
All right, I'm not a Zoom expert, so who knows what you're going to see and hear for the next.
So it says 2021A.
My problem is. There we go. Okay, share screen. And you should have it.
Is that closer?
I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with it, but you're making assumptions that may not be true. I'm saying I agree with you that no additional public funds of cost exposure. Then you say private donors pay difference. I don't know where you got that, but I'm not necessarily. There could be other resources that are available to pay for it, Ken, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It won't be public. I wouldn't necessarily say it would come all from private donors.
Would it be fair to say that it's no additional public tax exposure?
Yes.
Let me say this, the 4.5 million is not going to be the award.
Yeah, the 4.5 has got nothing to do with the commissioners.
Right.
I understand. I'm just trying to simplify to decision points and sort of the threshold here, and rather than saying they're agreeing with one party or the other party, et cetera. It's the threshold at which the public has exposure. That's what I was trying to define here.
Ken, just remember, the Board of Selectmen can't spend money it doesn't have. All right, particularly public funds. I mean, if it hasn't been appropriated by town meeting, it doesn't exist.
Okay.
So
That's fine.
The chart's wrong also in that the last item, town proceeds, title vests, NU appeals to SJC. NU doesn't appeal to SJC out of the box. NU
No,
may
it's
appeal.
there's a question
NU
mark.
may appeal, but it's not to the SJC.
Mhm.
NU appeals to the appeals court.
Yeah. And that could happen under either process, 79 or 88.
Okay. I just want to make sure that I understood, and I think I now do, and this captures it. I'll email this to Julie for the minutes, and you all have it. I'm happy to assist you with it. It's yours in PowerPoint. Do what you will. But I do think this actually helps you, Mark, and others to explain what exactly we're talking about. It simplifies it a bit. So
No, I agree. The whole idea of this decision tree is helpful. I'm afraid we're mixing kind of a couple of different things here in this particular one.
Okay. We don't have to edit it. We don't have to edit it in real time.
No, we're not going to edit this on the fly.
Yep. Okay.
So after all that we've discussed today, in today's mail, we got a flyer, a clip from Northeastern Marine Science Center project update that effectively said that the town won't talk to them. Has everybody seen this?
Yeah, I've seen. I haven't gone through it, but all I can tell you, Judy, is that they haven't contacted us. We were the last one to respond to them. They have not responded to our last letter.
No, I believe that, Mark. What I'm saying is that it has in red letters, 8th update, Marine Science Center, tells all the ways that it's going to protect the land and how the town itself has been uncooperative and not willing to deal.
I don't know what to say. They say a lot of things that I raise my eyebrows to, and you know.
I just think that we need to be prepared to answer for the points that they pointed out, of how they are indeed protecting the land, and we're stopping them from doing that.
Isn't that called the court of public opinion?
Yeah.
Well, it's lots of beautiful pictures here. That's all I'm saying. Just be prepared. Those questions will come up. Someone will go, well, what about this?
Yeah, I agree. I agree, Judy.
And that's written in legalese. That's not a legal document.
Oh, it's got beautiful pictures.
Right.
It shows obviously that they're all about, the environment, and we are.
But it's a public relations document, which is
lovely.
Right.
Yes, but I'm saying it went to every household.
Yeah, right.
And so, who knows? It's all. If we want the town to be invested in the direction, we need to at least point out that what they say here isn't true.
Correct.
I agree. We're going to have to respond or be able to.
We have to be prepared to be able to respond. But we can't ignore it.
We are preparing a response, Judy. There will be a response.
Yeah, and I think part of our job as the finance committee is to try to sort out the truth from the hyperbole.
Yes, I agree.
All right. Anyway, so on this particular topic, is there anything further for Mark or Attorney Masterman?
I don't have anything. Thank you very much for coming.
This was very helpful. Thank you.
I've got one more question to pose to Mark. How much have we spent so far on legal fees for this endeavor?
How much has the taxpayer spent?
Yes.
Or how much has been spent? I think most of the legal fees regarding Northeastern have been through a gift agreement, if not all of it.
From the Nahant Preservation Trust, is that right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Masterman.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Thank both of you,
Mr.
gentlemen.
Chairman.
Thank you all.
Yes,
Appreciate it.
thank you.
All right, so let's move on to more. I'm watching everyone disappear from the meeting now. more administrative matters. We have minutes to approve and John, I think we should continue marching our way through the articles at least until 9 o'clock. If not a
Okay.
little bit later than that, and just see how many of them we can knock off.
Sounds reasonable to me.
And
Okay.
we have some new ones, right? That we're going to need to have discussion of.
We do.
Well,
Jim Walsh,
that
you
we're-
are eating ice cream
It is.
in front of this entire audience.
It's
Where's mine?
It's lactose free, though. It's lactose free.
It's okay.
Nothing to worry about.
All right,
Do we want to do minutes?
yes, we want to do minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So
or-
moved.
Okay, I have two sets, so I have the 9th. So Zohora move. Do I hear a second?
Which set has Article 23?
That would be the March 16th.
Okay, we're not doing that one, right?
I second, whatever.
Thank you.
Well, before we vote, Julie, I sent a couple of edits to you on the 9th and the 16th minutes. Did you
Oh,
get
I didn't get them. Okay. On the 16th?
My apologies. I sent them to you around 4 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay. But are they on the 9th, the minutes of the 9th?
Yes.
Okay, what were they?
There's mention of town carries insurance for underground boiler.
Yes?
That should be oil tank.
Oh, okay,
Oil tank and covering leaks into the groundwater.
right.
And then on
Okay.
the 16th, under Article 20 comments, we discussed the land gift to the abutting golf course and a possible land swap instead to preserve the value of the land for sale and return to the town.
Okay. Okay,
That was it. Thank you.
all right.
So
So,
those are essentially amendments to the motion. So
right,
Whoever moved it, do you accept the amendments?
I do.
Can you send us the revised minutes? So I can,
yes, yep.
So committee, are we willing to approve these as amended, or do you want to see them in their entirety before approving?
I'm willing to approve as amended.
As I,
Okay, then all in favor?
I
And
have
it's
to
got to be a roll.
abstain. I have to abstain because was been a multi-Zoom day. So I'm sure they're fine, but I didn't have a
Okay.
chance to actually check them. Sorry.
It's okay.
That's okay, that's good. So it's got to be a roll call vote.
Yep.
Bolger, aye.
Brown eye.
I need one. Is this the 9th or the
This is
16th?
the 9th,
Okay, and that's not Article 22.
correct.
Okay, aye.
She and I.
Vanderslice, aye.
Tarmy, aye. That takes care of the 9th. All right,
That is, the 9th is approved.
yep. So now on to the 16th.
I would
Um,
like,
Jeff, you had something?
to change my vote on Article 23.
Can we do that? Or, I don't know.
I thought I was told that up to the point we voted on the minutes,
Okay,
then you could change it.
okay. So on
Um,
Article 20,
Is that, am I wrong? Or wouldn't be the
No,
first time.
No, I'm thinking out loud, but I'm thinking the minutes are the minutes. They record what happened.
right,
If you wish to change your vote on it, that's okay. We can certainly discuss that in this meeting.
I agree. I think minutes are just a recording of what happened at the time.
right.
So how should I proceed if I want to change my vote?
Well, I agree, I again, like Bob, I recommend you approve these minutes and then the first order of conversation, we talk about warrants, is pulling up and say, we want to talk about this again. It's not fixed. We're not done with the warrants.
Right.
That's,
So, so we would approve these as is or as is with Dana's amendments to them. And then the first thing we'll do when we start discussing the articles is we'll revisit 23, was it?
23.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does.
So do I hear a motion?
I'll do a motion to approve.
As amended. Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. So roll call.
Roll call vote.
Brown votes to approve.
Sheehan votes to approve.
I say aye.
Slice, aye.
Oldham, aye.
Garmy, aye.
Beatty has to abstain again.
Yep.
Zahora, aye.
Okay. Thank you. So I will get those out to you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Julie.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
How about if we look at Article 23 and revote it?
All right.
Hey, John, can you share the
Yeah, I'm,
tracking spreadsheet?
you want me to share the copy of the warrant or the, well, I can share a couple.
Copy of the
Warrant, I think.
Yeah, we'll
Either,
start with the warrant, then I can share the sheet. How about that?
yeah, warrant's probably more useful.
I'm gonna throw up version 5.
That's scary that we're on version 5 already.
You've had, last year, there were more versions than that. More than my toes and fingers.
Yeah.
So can you see what you want to see right now?
Yeah, you got to scroll down to 23.
23. Okay.
It has to do with the MWRA borrowing, and I vote against it, but I would like to explain why I'm voting against it. If I could be offered that opportunity.
Please, go.
Okay. When we vote this article, I think in terms of sources and uses. This is a use of $200,000, and we're temporarily borrowing it from a non-interest bearing MWRA loan. We're using it similar to a line of credit, even though it's not a line of credit. At some point in time, this $200,000 is going to be paid. And when it does, it's going to be included in the debt exclusion for the water and sewer fund. So by voting for that $200,000 worth of borrowing, we are in effect voting to skip the 2.5 override and add $200,000 to our property taxes at some time in the future. That's being done at this point in time because we have a debt exclusion of $811,000, and the number gets into that $811,000 when you pay it. So at some point in the future, we're going to pay this thing, and we're not going to ask the taxpayers, can we pay this? We're just going to pay it because sometime back in, I think it was 2017, the debt exclusion was approved by the town voters.
And
You don't have
by the debt exclusion, you mean the debt shift from the water and sewer into the general fund?
Unless I'm wrong, and it's hard getting information, but a debt exclusion is a tax increase. And what makes it different is the Prop 2.5 is not calculated on it, but you are definitely saying, I'm paying this tax. So our property taxes, we have two debt exclusions right now that are included in our property tax. One is for the school and one is for the water and sewer. Now, to keep this simple, my basic premise is the taxpayers should not be paying for this debt exclusion for the water and sewer. I'm not against a debt exclusion, but it should be a debt exclusion for the water and sewer fund, not for the general fund. There are 1,700 households roughly in the town of Nahant. We're going to spend in 2021, I think it is, $811,000 of debt exclusion by 1,700 households. But there are 3,500 people in the town of Nahant. If you put it and pay for it in the water and sewer fund, then it's distributed over 3,500 people. And if you do it properly, it can be distributed over the 500 or so. I don't know how many people come to Nahant on a daily basis to use our bathrooms, but I'll pick on Northeastern. They have how many people? 125 to 250 people using the facilities, but we're not charging them for any of the repairs for the facilities because it's in a debt exclusion that we, the taxpayers, are paying for. For me, it's an issue of, do you pay for it by household or do you pay for it by per capita? The water and sewer fund is a per capita payment. So I don't know whether I'm confusing the issue, but I believe that borrowing under MWRA is authorizing at some point this is going to be paid and the taxpayers are going to pay for it, not the ratepayers.
Allison, are you still with us?
Yes, I am.
Does this MWRA borrowing, do the debt service costs on this roll into that debt shift?
Yes, it
Yes.
does.
So then Jeff is absolutely right.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I understand the per capita argument because water and sewer bills are paid per household.
Right. But think of it this way. There's 1,700 households, roughly. I don't know what the exact number is.
Yeah, that's good enough.
But there's roughly 3,500 people, the population of Nahant. And if you take the daytime population of Nahant, it probably goes up to about 4,000. If you look at the debt shift or the debt exclusion over the coming 2 to 3 years, I'm using rough numbers. It's going to be about $1 million a year. You can divide that $1 million by 1,700 households, or you can divide it by 3,500 people, or you can divide it by 4,000 people. In the case of Northeastern, if they want to build a bigger facility so that they can have 250 people a day, well then take that entire debt exclusion. Don't increase your rates. Do not increase the water rates. I'm not asking for that, but divide it over the 250 people, and that's how many shares of the debt exclusion Northeastern will pay.
So you would have to increase the water and sewer rates. So if you didn't do the debt shift, the debt becomes part of the calculation of it's a cost under the water and sewer enterprise. So it figures into the rate.
Right.
Okay.
If we were to move, I think a better title for it is debt shift rather than debt exclusion. But if we were to move that, if we could magically move it back into water and sewer enterprise fund,
that's my goal.
Rates would go up. Water and
Yes.
sewer rates.
Yeah, but that's sort of what I questioned you about before. I questioned you about that before, and that you said that was the way that most towns in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts do it that way. And for some historic reasons, we do it in this
Yes.
backhanded deft switch back and
Yes.
forth way
Yes.
that
Yes.
I didn't
Yes.
understand, but I went along with. But
Yes.
thank you.
No, you're absolutely right, Bill. That's exactly what it is.
Lowering my hand.
The normal way to do it is, it would be in the water and sewer enterprise fund.
Allison, does it have to be a per 100 cubic foot? Why can't it be a fee basis? Call it a betterment fee based on the capacity. If you have I have my wife and I in the house. I get 2 people in my house, I'm gonna get 2 shares. For the debt, I'll pay for my water rates. And I pay for whatever my shares are of the betterment, because it's gonna benefit everybody in the town. If I'm Northeastern University, I've got a capacity of 250 people, then I should be paying 250 shares of that betterment.
Yeah,
If-
I
if
certainly
I'm-
see, yep, I'm sorry. I certainly see the argument. I just don't have a background in this. It would be something I'd have to look into.
And I don't want to beat a drum. I just, I followed the T accounts and followed this transaction. And at the end of the transaction, I say, I'm voting for a tax override here. And that just goes against me. I believe it should be paid. And so now I can shut up.
No, I mean, Jeff, I think you are raising excellent points that need to be followed up. And I'm going to say, but my concern is that we are so close to town meeting now that I'm worried that we can come to any kind of reasonable resolution to this before town meeting. But I absolutely agree with you.
That's my dilemma too. I don't know how to get my point across, but I don't want to interfere with the wheels of government moving forward. So I don't know how to accomplish my ends.
So maybe the conflict at this point, it is to let the wheels of government run this year.
This is the way.
And then next town meeting, or after the town meeting, we start to figure out what the heck other way can we do to fund this?
This is the way history, well, I think that it would be better to do it the historical way. And the Nahant way has been, I believe, because of tax deductions in the past, which have changed. So it's more appropriate to do it, but it would result in a decrease in taxes, but an increase in water rates.
And I'm not even sure it will result in a decrease in taxes.
Yeah, but yeah,
it will make, go ahead. It'll make more money available in the general fund, but taxes are determined by the assessed value and the rate.
No, but this is an add-on, Bob. They calculate Prop 2.5 override is calculated. Then to that base, they add the balance on the school loan, or the school payment is added to it, and then the water and sewer payments are added to it. So if you look at our base tax yield, if you will, is $9,600,000. Added to that is the school payment, which is another $400,000. Added to that is another $811,000 this year for the water and sewer override. So it comes up to 10 million, whatever that calculation happens to be, and that's your tax rate for the year. What makes it a great tool is it doesn't increase the Prop 2.5 override. Prop 2.5 only generates $230,000 a year.
I see what you're saying. This has been voted to be outside of Prop 2.5. We're gonna have to think about that.
It creates some interesting mathematics of how do you do this? You don't kill the town, but and I'm not an anarchist, so I don't want to do that. But it just there's a way of doing it. And you got to start getting into the detail and roll up your sleeves to figure out how to accomplish what we want to accomplish. And you're right, we got the clock ticking.
Right. So maybe a way to do this is to say, okay, you know, let's let it go for this year. We're gonna make a pledge or a goal for ourselves that we're gonna tackle this in the upcoming year. And to hold our feet to the fire, we're going to mention this in our letter, the cover letter to the booklet.
And we can also add language in the recommendations.
Yeah.
If we do, you know, I think that's a good place to kind of put this kind of stuff. If we choose to include it in the letter, that's fine as well. But I think, you know, if you package it next to the article, then people will definitely read it. If you throw it in the appendix, they might or they might not. But I
like that, John, because they will read it and they will remember it.
Right.
And this is my article. So
lucky you.
Oh, sorry.
So Jeff, we're gonna have to talk, and I'm gonna have folks look at how this gets phrased.
We're gonna have to revote.
Yes. But we can't revote based on what we have to rewrite this now somewhat.
We can't change the article, but what I think we could, I think someone could make a motion to revote Article 23.
I'd like to make a motion to revote Article 23 regarding MWRA borrowing.
Okay. The point I was going to make is I don't think it's going to change the vote, but it will allow those few, I'm making a guess, to kind of at least vote their conscience, and they can be on record of making the vote that they make in terms of either recommending or not recommending the article. So that will be kind of documented and recorded, and then we can follow up with verbiage in our recommendation statement, not a change in the actual wording of the article. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can I get in on this as well, please?
Yeah.
This is Dana. So are we going to reword the article 23?
No, you can't.
You can't.
No, not the article, but our recommendation.
Right. And I'm going to need help with what you want me to say in the recommendation. But
we haven't revoted it.
Is it going to be some kind of appendix to kind of define what Jeff has laid out for us here?
Well, I'll be glad to work with Bob. I'm not sure what you're putting me on the spot here.
I think the sentiment was that it would be better in the body of our recommendation rather than as an appendix.
But I think talking to the high level points about, how this skirts Proposition 2.5, and your point that you made about that it pushes another $200,000 onto the taxpayer, not the ratepayer.
Right.
Just kind of fleshing out the high level elements of that dynamic.
But that's outside the pertinence of this article.
No, I don't think so. I think you could make the committee could recommend this, but then say in the future, it's acknowledged that this type of borrowing is not a borrowing that is paid by the actual ratepayers in the enterprise fund. It gets shifted onto the general tax roll. So I think you can kind of tell the story behind it in the wording associated with the recommendation, or to not recommend. But I don't think that's where we're going to end up. But I don't know.
Bob and John,
I'd like to just ask Jeff, is this 0% interest that we're borrowing $200,000?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
It's 0%. It's like a line of credit, but it isn't.
Right. Now, I did identify some other items in the budget, some borrowing from years ago, where it's 5% interest. Could we use some of this $200,000 to pay off those old bonds?
Well, I have a question for Allison for that if she's still on.
I think there's 3 or 4 bonds out there, Jeff, that have 5% interest. I think we should. try to pay them
This
off.
one, Article 23, is restricted for use in whatever it says in the article, repair or replace water distribution, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, so the MWRA is a borrowing directly through the MWRA and it has to be used for construction purposes.
Right.
You can't use it to pay off another loan.
Allison, you sent me a schedule that the detail behind the 811,000 and then the next year was 799,000 and it went up to 1 million and so forth. Are those funds earmarked for those specific payments?
Yes,
Okay, so in other words, the town is going to take in $811,000 and they can only use that $811,000 to pay the principal and interest on what was specified in your schedule.
correct.
Yeah, okay. Bob, I won't change my vote if it makes it easier, but I would like to work with Barbara to sit back and throw a caveat in there that.
Yeah, I think it would make it easier. I'm struggling because I don't remember Robert's Rules of Order and what's necessary to revisit or rescind a previous vote. So it would be easier if we just, leave it with this understanding that we've had a discussion about what our recommendation is going to be, and it will include what we've just discussed.
I withdraw my motion for a vote.
Or we could make a motion to reconsider.
That's Dana, that's what I don't remember Robert's Rules of Order on. I think Jeff is saying, at least from his point of view, it's not necessary to reconsider as long as the recommendation includes.
I just like to fix things.
You bet.
Jeff,
Well,
we can work together. Jeff, please, thank you. We can work together on the recommendation is what you're saying.
Okay, fine. And I don't need to change my vote then. Just, we'll put it in the write-up.
Thank you.
Yeah, but this was a great conversation. Thank you, Jeff.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, don't stop.
No.
Keep digging.
Jeff, don't get
fixing,
wrong on
keep
this, but it's not going to change anything. Next year's not going to change.
that's true.
Okay,
We'll
sorry.
forget all about it next year.
We'll see.
Oh, we're back to normal.
So I'm going to share. So are we done with that, Bob? We can move on to the.
Yeah, I think we move on. I don't remember where we stopped.
Okay, so this is my
We stopped at 23.
tabulation of where we ended last
Okay,
week.
good, perfect.
And we have the red ones that were not voted, and we have the green ones that are voted. And then we have, so if we kind of strip out the ones that are voted, this is what we have left. So we're not going to vote the salary and classification plan tonight. We're not going to vote the omnibus, but I did send an email where Allison very kindly put together the kind of nuts and bolts numbers for both the enterprise funds. So we could, in theory, now that we have those numbers and have those figures, we could vote 7 and 9 if people are so inclined. And I can, if it's helpful, I can, well, let me stop this. I can pull up what Alice sent me. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, I reviewed it this afternoon.
Yeah, that'd be helpful.
All right. 1 second. Sorry. Okay, do you see those numbers?
Yes.
So, those capture all the line items with respect to the 2 enterprise funds, and in the bottom details what the rate will be and the increase. So does that mean? So then that takes us back to Article 7. With the numbers over there, are we willing to recommend Article 7 to kind of raise and appropriate those funds and spend them in those ways?
One question for Allison, what's the increase over prior year percentage?
For water and sewer, it was 12.4.
So that hasn't really changed.
Whoop, sorry.
Yeah, so the 12%, that's the increase, the projected increase in the rate.
And the rubbish,
It's going to be different because this year it's a tiered structure, right? Previous, it was a flat single fee, but now multi-domain households in terms of multifamily units pay more.
That's right, John. It's like
Correct.
per housing unit.
Right. I don't have it in front of me, but I think the individual housing unit went down slightly, but the multi-units obviously went up in terms of multiples of that.
but I thought Tony said that when all the dust settled, the pluses and minuses was to cover the increased cost from the cottage company.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the rubbish I'm not as certain of because that's not a rate that's set by the town. It has to do with our contract with waste management. So I would need Tony to weigh in on that.
So are we willing to recommend Article 7?
Put Article 7 up, okay?
Do you not see it in front of you now? I have it in front of me.
Okay.
No,
You see the Word document or you see the email?
see the email.
Email.
Sorry.
It's okay.
I think Zoom is stuck.
Yeah,
Now we see you.
my screen, and I thought if I change my screen, it would change with me, but it doesn't seem to want to do that.
I think it's how you choose to share. If you
Now you-
choose a
There you go.
particular, there you go.
How do you see Article 7?
Water and sewer.
Yep.
So is there further discussion or?
I'll make a motion to recommend.
Second.
All right,
Katie,
discussion
no.
or do a roll call? Roll call vote?
Beatty, aye.
Brown eye.
Louis, I.
Slice aye.
Army, I.
Is this Article 7?
Yes.
Yep. She and I.
Okay, so
Judy?
Zohara, aye.
Thank you.
so then I flashed the numbers I sent and flashed the numbers for Article 9. If we include in the, beyond the numbers that I showed, the actual distribution of the new rates with respect to single family dwellings and multifamily dwellings, are people willing to vote that?
Yes.
Agreed.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move.
Second.
Second.
Foljam, aye.
Beatty,
Brown eye.
Beatty, aye.
Louis, I.
Zohara, aye.
She and I.
Army,
Allison, that 75,000 is debt. Is that how that was being paid for, that additional? Or is retained?
The 75,000 for the recycling cards
Yeah,
needs to be paid from retained earnings.
Journey,
Rubbish
okay.
retained earnings, yep.
Vote aye.
Yeah, if we look in that note, can you see the bottom of?
Okay, yeah, I see it over there.
Yeah. So there was 220,000 in there, but 50,000 are gonna go, 50,000 is going to the compost, and the rest is going to the pay for the new recycling carts. So if that take us back.
Bob, did you vote on that motion?
I vote aye. If I didn't vote before, I would vote aye now.
Thank you.
Okay, so if we have 7 and 9, we can turn those green. And then if we follow sequentially, we're down to 11. I guess Tony's not here, but I listened to the selectmen's meeting last week. And so 11 is a new article, an article that wasn't on our previous version, version 4. And it's to enable the borrowing of, or enable the purchase of, I think it's, 64-gallon wheeled recycling bins for everybody in town. And the rationale there was that these bins would keep the dynamic of trash day morning windstorms that tend to tip over the blue recycling bins and spread plastic and recyclables all over town and into the beaches, into the water, into the forests, into all the places. This would be something that would keep that from happening, and then also layer into a more efficient follow-on waste contract that might be less expensive in the future, because we'd have these large tubs that could potentially be picked up by a trash truck that had some kind of automated lift. So it
With
kinda had-
64 gallons.
So John,
Heck,
here's
for
what I
my
know
house.
about that.
Yeah.
I was on a town committee when I lived in Pottstown, Pennsylvania. That was starting to that it had, the waste management company had given us the bins, 64, the great big bins for both recycle and a great big bin for trash.
Yeah.
And the biggest complaint we had was from people who were unable to move them. They're huge.
Yeah.
And I'm not opposed. I think that it's certainly better than chasing the trash down the street. But know that there is going to be some objection to, frankly, they're physically big in a town where we're very close together.
Yeah.
It does either the article or the contract specify that you may only use the bins and there's
Yeah.
no other?
I think it does.
I think so.
It makes sense because they want to be able to pick them up with an automatic machine. They have to be-
Yeah, that you have to standardize if you're gonna do that.
Right.
Yeah.
You see
Yeah,
the
just know that don't be surprised if there's discussion about how is the fact that Nahant's older population is supposed to physically move them.
I think Tony's, I think he's going to say that they have wheels. I mean, I think that's going to be his answer. I don't know if that's what you
No,
want. to hear,
it's not, I mean, yeah, they've got wheels, they got little wheels, everybody's got little sidewalks.
Yeah.
I know, just that it's like this bad case of deja vu. It was a huge fight in that town.
Hey, Judy, I'd go the other route. If these things are 64 gallons, why don't they cut down recycling to every other week? Then we could save some big bucks.
That is something that is going to be considered, Jeff. That's the purpose of Waste Management offering these.
That's a lot of paper.
I don't think Tony wants to start doing that right away, but that's something to be considered.
Oh, okay.
That would make sense.
It would make sense, they're just physically big, and then if you wait for 2 weeks, they're physically heavy.
That's okay. I already do 4 neighbors' trash buckets, and I'm an old man.
You just sort of push them or pull them out, right?
Yeah, they're on wheels, they tip
Yeah,
over.
I mean, I've seen them. Right.
Well, in my case, they roll downhill and I run like hell to stay out of their way until they hit the valley and then stop them.
And hopefully they're empty when you have to haul them up the hill.
64 gallons going to get a lot of momentum.
Yes, it is. And you get a lot of exercise chasing them, just saying. All right, anyway, just know that that might be come up. I'm not opposed.
Okay. So does someone want to make a motion to recommend?
I'll move that we recommend.
I'll second it.
Louis, I.
ADI.
Brown eye.
Vanderslice side.
Oldham, aye.
And I,
Army, I.
she and I.
Zohar, aye.
Right.
9:06.
Yeah. So do we want to stop or do we want to,
Gosh, I'd like to stop, guys.
John, I have just a quick question.
Yeah.
There are a couple of articles that you have assigned to me
okay,
that I was not aware of, and
Oh,
they're the two that have to do with the town-owned land.
okay.
And I am on the town-owned land committee, so I don't know if I should take those two.
Okay, so let's just, we're talking about these.
The two, the town-owned land and the Antigua Way.
All right. Well, I guess, but maybe between now and when we meet next Tuesday, if anybody has the urge to take those off of Julie's hands.
I can take
I
those.
think there's,
I'll take one. I don't mind that.
I'll take one also, and I can also do shopping bags, because that's one that I'm very, I think
Okay,
it's a great idea.
okay. How about, I'll do recycling carts. How about that? And how about on the town-owned land? Was that, that was Barbara and,
I'll take that. I don't mind that at all, but I don't really know what that is.
what if we,
that's the Antigua Way. I mean,
I think it's Frank Cadilli's lot, isn't it?
yeah,
Yeah.
we can't really do anything with them because the town-owned land study committee has to make a decision on them. They just go to the town-owned land study.
okay, that's kind of,
I'll take the non-compostable shopping bags. You can put my name on that,
where do I see that? Okay, right there.
on there. She says pointing.
John, where's Article 10 here?
Article 10, where did Article 10 go? Oh, Article 10 should have already been, that was the maintenance of the compost area.
Yeah,
We already in
that's
theory
me.
voted that one.
Did we have some edits there or comment?
I mean, we were gonna put the comments in the recommendation, right? Not in
Right.
actual.
Right.
And I did.
John, we just voted 7.
Yeah, I haven't caught it totally up, so.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I'll fix that one and that one. Those are good.
So the articles that are there, where are we putting our recommended, recommendations? Are we putting them in the article? I'm sorry to ask this again. Are we putting them in the drafted articles? Where are we putting them?
We can't change the articles.
No, I know.
Oh, you just mean where's what document, right?
We can
Where's
change.
the documents of the articles and then where's the documents of what wording we're putting in there?
Julie, have you actually gone in? You sounded like
Yes.
in an email to me, you've gone into one of the versions of
I
the,
did. The one that has all the markups, your markups.
Yeah.
In red and I went in and edited mine or
okay,
made sure that it was what it should read. Yeah, and I was able to do that. You just have to mark that you want to edit it, go in and put your response in.
Yeah.
Right, so you want it right in the, thank you, then, Julie, you want it right in the article in the warrant, that's okay. Can you just tell us which one you want it in that? We'll start doing that.
yeah. And when you save that Word document, did you have to save it as a new name or how did you?
No, I just closed out of it and it automatically saved.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll go back in, I'll find that document and beyond, I will leave it there.
Mhm.
And I will, I don't know, maybe I'll change the name of it to our working document or
Okay.
something, and I'll let everybody know what I call it. So then if
Okay.
anybody has recommendation statements to either edit or add to that master document. We'll call that the master document. Does that make sense?
That'd be perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question about this whole process. I mean, we can change these articles now. I mean, the selectmen are changing.
No,
It's our
we
warrant.
We
no,
can't
it's not
change
our
the
warrant. It's
article.
the selectmen's
No, we
warrant.
can't change the goddamn articles.
It's our book, like, so we can put whatever we want in the book. We can put whatever we want in the appendix. We can put whatever we want in our recommendation statements.
But
But
not
the actual
change
articles themselves are the selectmen's or the citizens' petitions. I mean, we can have conversations with them to change the article wording, but we're gonna have to be very, I think,
Persuasive.
specific and,
Right.
Persuasive.
have a very sound logic for whatever's change we're asking for, but they're gonna have to make the change in one of their selectmen's meetings.
I understand. That's all good. And I apologize for jumping in there, but
Yeah.
we're going through this process of commenting on these articles.
Yeah.
We take our time, we do the study, we do the analysis, we make recommendations, they go into the comments. And do we really think anything's going to change next year? I mean,
I think that's up to us.
Here, listen, as someone who's just a good cynic, I'm a serious cynic. I'll tell you what, I've seen a lot of changes since Tony started. And I've seen he started to chip away. I mean, for years we talked, you're right, for years we put things in and they got, it never happened. But I've seen Tony in the last 2 years, and considering last year is, this year was miserable, chip away and started to get to where we're trying to go. So I absolutely believe that keeping it in there certainly keeps it in everybody's mind, but more specifically, keeps it in Tony's mind and the way he's running the town. We're gonna get there. I believe that now.
Judy, thanks for telling me about that, and I appreciate it. Take me out of my dark place. All right.
Yeah, so Dana, I kind of feel, I understand your sentiment, but I feel like, I mean, what we spent our first 2 hours in the meeting on, I mean, I know the selectmen say that they're they have ability to multitask, but I still think that issue tends to like suck all the air out of the room, and like we're still behind. I mean, we can blame it on COVID, we can blame it on a lot of things, but we're still, in my mind, behind schedule in terms of the way this whole process should work. Like all these issues that we're talking about needing to fix or tweak or improve, we're still having, we're having the conversations too late. So
yeah, I mean, the clock in effect, John, has been, kind of run out, and we just basically have to, make our comments and go along.
Yeah. But part of that is our own fault. If we wait to begin our work as a finance committee until whatever, late January, February, we're almost by definition going to run out of time. Yeah. Where a lot of these things we should be working on throughout the year, when we're not meeting. So I think that's part of what has to change as well. We can't pin this on somebody else. A good bit of it's our own damn.
Yeah, that's fair.
Okay.
Absolutely true.
So maybe we'll start another document in the folder. I don't know what we're going to call it, but the pressing issues, or just some kind of almost like a free form forum for people to kind of write down
folders that Jeff Lewis wants to do.
Yeah, like to Jeff's points, just kind of what are these things that are high in our mind now, and that we want to make sure we deal with in the future. And so then maybe at the end of this cycle, we can come back and look at those things and prioritize them, and then come up with a more concrete, time-based plan to.
Yeah, exactly. We can't tackle them all at once, so we need to.
Or we can make an amendment on the floor.
Right. Yeah.
Well, yeah, that is another way to change an article, is you can move to amend it on the floor.
And on the other hand too, Tony,
which is more difficult than it seems.
Right. Tony said that, he will take edits from us to the Board of Selectmen and, they've got edits coming back to us with the eminent domain proceeding, et cetera. So this stuff is not a done deal.
Right.
Right, it's not a done deal, and
Right.
I don't know, in my experience, this is pretty routine in the way the thing works.
Okay.
But, I mean, just as an aside, don't you see a little bit more light than we've had in a long time?
A little more light, did you say?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, I think this is way better than it's been in a while.
Okay.
Yeah, I think both the selectmen and Tony are far more open to being proactive and, really wanting to change some of this.
And collaborative.
And
right?
yeah,
Way more
exactly. And willing to work with us. Collaborative is a good word.
All right. I mean, I think we work in the time frame, and if there's anything people feel strong about, I mean, I think it's fair game to put it in a communication to Tony and put in a request to update the article.
Yeah, and that's what we've done. We just can't change the article outright.
So we're good for tonight?
Yeah, John, can I just say one more thing about
Sure.
the Board of Selectmen's article on the lowlands drainage? If you want to assign that to me, that'll be okay, because I already have the citizens petition.
Okay.
And there's the possibility that one might go away, so.
Okay. Then it looks like we have everything assigned,
Okay.
and I will.
Right. Before we adjourn, let's just make sure we're clear on at least the next couple of meetings. So Sheila is going to join us on Tuesday, John?
She said that, but she's kind of, I was very surprised that she kind of, 3:00 said, oh, no, we can't make tonight. So I'm assuming next Tuesday is okay. Yeah, so that's do we know about CPC, where they are?
Yeah, I don't, and again, I'm going to pick on Austin, who is, I see is here and on mute. Do you have a sense when CPC may be ready?
Sorry. No is the short answer. We have another meeting on Monday. I believe we'll be discussing some amendments to some of the applications from this year. And there's been a discussion on combining a few of them to bond rather than fund them outright because of the limited finances. So I think that discussion is going to continue in Monday's meeting.
Right. Are you at a place where you can have a directional conversation, if not a detailed conversation?
I think Lynn is the better person to ask that, but I believe probably after Monday, I would say yes.
And Austin, again, the roster is going to be the full set or close to the full set of articles that were proposed last year.
Heavenly days.
I see Jeff and Lynn gesticulating wildly there.
No, we're not wildly, we're just, dancing. Yes, hello.
Hello.
So I was just called up from downstairs making dinner.
It's 9:30 at night.
Hi, everybody. So we have a meeting, we continue to meet on CPC articles. We'll be doing that again on Monday. I'm very aware that we need to get to you very shortly thereafter. But we're getting some clarity.
I'm going to press you a bit. So is Thursday of next week too early? Would you be more comfortable with Tuesday of the following week, which is getting kind of late for us?
I don't have a calendar in front of me. Thank you. You always press me, Bob.
Sorry.
you're talking about first?
April Fool's Day, Bob?
Really?
I guess I am talking about April
I think
Fool's Day.
you are, and I think that would be absolutely delicious.
Wildly, wildly appropriate? I don't know.
Why not?
Okay, Finance Committee, are we okay having a second meeting next week on April the 1st, April Fool's Day?
Mhm.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's fine with me.
Excited about that one.
We're gonna have to like all wear silly hats or something.
I can come, but I'll have to be a little bit late. But it works.
Okay, thank you. So Barbie, you and Dana and Julie have been attending our meetings, I believe, or listening in some part.
Yeah, I did one or two.
Some of them.
And Bob, actually downstairs while I'm making dinner, I was updating our chart so I could send it to you and the committee electronically, so you could just sort of see the progress.
Okay, excellent. All right, so we will see you on April Fool's Day.
And post meeting,
I'm sorry?
post the meeting, Bob.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that-
enjoy your dinner.
Right, and in this week's case, it was not us. Let's just put it that way.
We had sent notice on Thursday and told, it wasn't us. But so we will post for Tuesday and Thursday of next week.
I just adjusted the calendar.
And Tuesday we'll hope that the assessor is there. And if not, and also we will just continue to plow through the articles, right?
Yep.
Yep.
And John, that list of people's names or what articles they got to write, that's in the folders, right?
Yeah, I think it's in the folder, maybe tracking, the FinCom tracking or something like that.
Tracking one.
Yeah.
Okay, so if I do some writing this weekend, who do I send it to, you and Bob, or?
You could do that, or you could, you can do that.
Just post.
I mean,
Is that
then
for
I hesitate putting anything into the folder without it running through you guys so that you get version control and that sort of stuff.
If you want to do that, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that for the one that we're working on, Jeff?
If I'll be doing it on the weekend, but I was going to do some of my articles just to get them off my plate. I get nervous with something not being done. I don't have COVID to worry about anymore,
Where are you living?
Yeah, where are you
He's
living?
had his shots.
So
I
am
get
I.
my shot. Saturday,
I'm still
I'm
worried.
officially safe on Saturday.
Okay. Wear your mask.
So
I
on
do.
Saturday, you will be dancing maskless in the street?
While he chases the rubbish containers.
All right, well, with that, are we all set then, guys?
Yes,
I think
With
so.
that little picture in our heads, can we go now?
yes.
Well, if we have a motion to adjourn, yes,
I
we
so
can.
moved.
Second,
Third.
All right, quick roll call.
Sadie, I.
Zohara, aye.
Down eye.
Yes, I.
Enderslice, aye.
She and I.
Army eye.
We're done.
Thank
Good
you
night,
all.
everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
9:24.
Thanks, Julie.
You're welcome, Barbara. See you later.
Yeah.